Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. I banged my face on my mug that time. You know, it's actually pretty impressive. I've made it this far without doing that so far. But here we are. 2 episodes from the end of this season, and I did it. Not the point. First up, in D&D news, we really don't have a whole lot going on right now. As I mentioned, we've got plenty of releases coming out in January, and we're winding down the year here, so I'm not super surprised that we're not seeing a whole lot right now. But keep your eye out. There might be something dropping like in the holiday season here. Obviously, there are a lot of places that are putting out holiday one-shots and that sort of thing right now. So if you're looking for a fix, go ahead and take a look for that. That point carries over into streams, in that Tuesdays we don't really have any streams. So again, if you know of any D&D shows that you think that I should be keeping an eye out for, plugging on here, please let me know. I will happily add them to the rotation as soon as I know what they are. Coming in January on Tuesdays, starting on the 11th, I will be a player on Sidetracked. You can find it at Sidetracked RPG on pretty much any different platform that you want to. It'll be on YouTube, Twitch. We have, I think, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter accounts under the same handle right now. I'm really excited for that one to be coming out. I can't wait. It's been so much fun to play in. I haven't gotten to be a player in a longer game in a long time, and so it's been a blast to really get to do that with some really, really great people. On the topic of doing some really cool stuff with some cool people, on January 3rd, that first Monday in the new year, I am going to be releasing a actual play show here on this YouTube channel every single Monday for, I don't remember exactly how long it is. We have wrapped it up. Just about. I am working on getting everything cut together, and we'll be posting it weekly on Mondays, starting in January, on the first January of the month. If you are a patron of mine on Patreon, you'll be getting access to that. The first one is going to be on January 1st, and then it'll be probably like the Friday before or something like that moving forward. Just to, you know, if you're a patron, you get a little extra. So I will obviously plug those again tomorrow. But keep an eye out for those. Be ready for those. I'm really excited about them. I hope you guys end up liking them. That's my no streams on Tuesday spiel, I guess. Moving on to T&D. As I mentioned yesterday, it is Christmas week. Notice the Christmas sweater again. This one actually has a hood on it that I am a big fan of, that I'm going to put up and hopefully actually be able to stay in. It's horrible to wear with a hat. But that's not really the point. And honestly, the hat is less of a problem than the headphones are right now. But I don't have another sweater mug, so instead I have a mug with a sweater on it. And this one has a moose on it. This is literally just like a sleeve that you button on here to keep your drink warm. Today I've got some peppermint hot chocolate, which is delicious. I love me a good peppermint hot chocolate. I think it is the most festive of the hot chocolates. But I couldn't find the one that I was going to use today originally, so I used this one instead. I'm going to have to dig out the other one for tomorrow. Oh, boy. All right. So, let's get into it, shall we? Today, we are talking about the last official class for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition as of the end of 2021. In the Wizard class. Obviously, last but not least, Wizards are a phenomenal class. They have the largest spell list in the game, and for good reason. They are, I mean, they're wizards. I don't know what to tell you. That's kind of their thing. That's what they do, and they do it very well. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about what wizards actually get, because it's interesting. So wizards are in a strange place because they're a combination of learned and prepared casters. Wizards obviously have a spell book. That's kind of their thing. They write their spells down in a spell book, and they go through it, and that's how they pick out their spells for the day. They have to actually add spells to that spell book in order to be able to then prepare them for the day and use them. But once they're in their spellbook, they can use them whenever they prepare them. Or if they have a bunch of ritual spells in there, they can cast those whether or not they're prepared if they have the ritual tag associated with them. At each level, a wizard gets to add 2 I believe, new spells to their spellbook, which is great. You can pick any level that you can cast, but obviously with such a big spell list, it is going to be hard to keep yourself sort of like in that little bubble, which means your wizard is going to be looking for paper, ink, materials, and spell scrolls all over the place, so they can add whatever it is that they want to their spellbook. A fun way to sort of like give your wizard a little bit more free reign if you're a little bit higher level, if they have some downtime or they're studying somewhere or something like that, tell them that they can pick a certain number of levels of spells to pick up and add to their spellbook if they so choose. I did that with my bard/wizard over their their year off here. I gave her 21 spell levels to pick whatever she wanted, and I think she had a good time with it. She picked out some pretty good stuff, and it's nice to just be able to sort of sit back and go, okay, I can do what I want here. I can pick what I want, and because you give them a round number, they can use all of them, because if push comes to shove, they'll have one spell level left over, and they will get to use that for whatever they want. That is a first level spell. But anyway, at first level, you pick up that spellcasting feature that allows you to prepare a number of spells out of your spellbook that you have had to learn and copy into your spellbook at a certain point. And additionally, at first level, you pick up Arcane Recovery, which is a really interesting sort of mechanic. Yesterday, we talked about Warlocks and how they get their spell slots back on a short rest. Wizards have this Arcane Recovery ability that allows them to regain spell slot levels equal to half of their wizard level, and the slots cannot be above 5th level, I believe. The spell slots cannot be 6th level or higher. So you can recover a number of spell levels equal to your half of your wizard level. So if you're a 4th level wizard, you can recover 2 levels of spells. That can be 2 firsts or 1 second, that sort of thing. And it obviously scales up from there. It is because obviously wizards are so deeply entrenched in their spellcasting, they don't really have a whole lot else they can do. These like really core spellcasting classes, they sort of have to supplement with that. Like, wizards have this, sorcerers have sorcery points, warlocks get their spell slots back, druids get wild shapes back. They all have something that they get back in order to make it so that they can continue to operate, even if they are not getting full rests between their encounters. At 2nd level, you pick up your Arcane Tradition, which is your wizard subclass, which we'll obviously talk about later on. This is where, obviously, you pick up what type of magic you want to study, what is going to sort of guide your studies as a wizard. And then we get into the same sort of pattern that we got into with the sorcerer, with all of your core casting classes that don't have a bunch of stuff thrown in the middle there. At 4th level, you have an ability score improvement. At 6th level, you get a subclass feature. At 8th level, you get an ability score improvement. At 10th level, you get a subclass feature. At 12th level, you get an ability score improvement. At 14th level, you get a subclass feature. At 16th level, you get an ability score improvement. And then, at 18th level, you pick up Spell Mastery, finally making it all the way down to there. Spell Mastery allows you to choose a 1st and 2nd level wizard spell that is in your spellbook. You can cast those spells at their lowest level without expending a spell slot whenever you have them prepared. If you want to cast them at higher levels, you'd obviously have to spend the spell slot for that. But these you can just sort of do at will, essentially, when you've got them prepared for the day. You can spend 8 hours to cycle out which spells you want those to be. That, I believe, cannot actually be part of a long rest. That has to be like a study period. So keep that in mind. But still, you are given the option to cycle those out as needed, which is pretty great. If you find yourself almost constantly getting banged up, or pinged up, whichever one you want, those were the 2 words I was going with and decided to combine, by random stuff, then you can throw shield in there or something like that, or magic missile in there, and you're gonna have like the ability to actually like protect yourself or deal a little bit of damage at a default without too much of a problem. I will say magic missile, while it will always hit, by the time you get to 18th level, you're going to be doing a lot more damage with your cantrips. But but you will have to roll a hit for those. Just something to keep in mind. So shield might be a better bet. That's just my opinion. 19th, wow. 19th level, you get an ability score improvement, as ever. And then at 20th level, you get signature spells, which means that you get to pick two spells, two third level spells that are in your spellbook, that are wizard spells, obviously. I guess if you're a 20th level wizard, you don't really have other spells in your spellbook. You always have those spells prepared. You don't count, or they don't count against the number of spells that you have prepared, and you can cast each of them once at third level without expending a spell slot. When you do, after that, you have to finish a short or long rest in order to regain the ability to cast them at that level. Obviously, if you want to upcast them, you will have to do that. However, they are always prepared for you, so you get one free casting of each of them, which is essentially 2 third level spell slots that you just kind of have on the back burner at all times, that are locked into specific spells. But if you are a 20th level wizard, you're probably going to throw those to like counterspell or something like that. And then you will always have a counterspell just ready to go to toss up there when you need it, which is pretty great, honestly. So that brings us to the end of our class features, obviously. So let's get ourselves into the subclasses. We're going to do this one a little different, and you'll see what I mean when we get to it. But let's just start at the top, as we normally do, with our Bladesinger Wizard. This is your, like, fighter-type wizard, almost, honestly. There are 2 subclasses that are, like, battle mages, and this is the one that is more like fighter, up in the fray, that sort of thing. They have raised the restriction from elves only when they release Tashas to be anybody can have studied this type of fighting and magic, and you gain the ability to be a Bladesinger, no matter what your race is, which is great. It's a really cool subclass. People will build insane builds where they buff their armor class to the moon when they're wearing, like, no armor at all. It's a really sort of fun thing to do, actually. If you're into the crunchy number bits, it's actually a lot of fun to sit down and try and do and see how high you can get it to go, which means that I've done it more than once. That's not the point, though. Next up is the Chronergy Wizard. Actually, I'm going to do Chronergy and Graviturgy together a little bit, because they are both control-based wizards. These came to us in the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. So the Critical Role book that has been published officially by Wizards. And I love these subclasses. They are both phenomenal. They're, as with the Undead and the Undying yesterday, there's a definitive preference for which one people would like more. I'm not going to really get into that. But I have written down for them the Chronergy is a general control, and the Graviturgy is a specific control, because most of the Graviturgy things target a single creature, and Chronergy things sort of target areas, or it can be spread out over multiple creatures or something like that, which I think is a really cool mechanic. And if you are fighting multiple enemies, that's really a phenomenal thing to be able to do. I keep kind of catching myself on the screen, and I know that the hood is not straight, and so I'm sorry if it's bothering anybody. I look hysterical no matter what. Not the point. Chronergy and Graviturgy, written a similar way to the Echo Knight, so they're a little bit more vague than maybe normal WotC things would be. But that doesn't really take anything away from them. It just leaves a little bit more room for interpretation than you would get with your average subclass. Following the Chronergy and Graviturgy magics, we have the Order of Scribes. This is the one that my Bard multiclassed into when she picked up Wizard as well. Wizards are nerds, right? Like, they're book nerds. The Order of Scribes is the nerdiest nerd. Like, their whole thing is books. They like read books, they write books, they live with books, essentially. But they are also, in my mind and my opinion, the single most versatile subclass in the wizard class. They are phenomenal. They have so many good features. One of their features effectively is a familiar that you can use to, like, cast spells out of and stuff like that. And they have what I consider to be one of the most offensively impressive abilities in the game. next to a fighter's action surge, which is their ability to replace damage types as long as you have another spell of the same damage type at that spell level in your spellbook. Like, I did a build like this on TikTok at one point. You can change pretty much any spell you want into a psychic damage spell with an Order of Scribes Wizard, which is awesome. Following Order of Scribes, we get into all of these School ofs. And that's what I'm calling them. I'm not going to go through every single one of them individually because, and I might anger some of the people on the internet with this one. I think that the School of Wizards or the School of Subclasses are not well written, really. I think that the majority of them have a really good 10th level feature. Pretty consistently across the board, they have their feature that they pick up at level 10 is good. It's very good. Transmutation gets the ability to cast Polymorph on themselves once for free. Enchantment allows you to like split enchantment and do stuff with that. So you can target multiple creatures with one enchantment spell, which is like your power words of the world, which is really phenomenal. But like they're all kind of bland, and they don't really give you a whole lot more than slight specialization in this school of magic. Because the thing with Wizard is they can cast spells from any school of magic, as can most casters. But they have this thing where they divide them up like this because their sort of core feature is the fact that you don't have to pay as much to copy those spells into your spellbook, even though you get free spells at each level up, and maybe you're not going to like take exclusively from that school. So it's a weird setup, and these are all the ones obviously that came out in the player's handbook. So they were early on. It probably seemed like something that people really were going to like ride and harp on a lot, but in my experience, people just don't. And so that has reduced a lot of these to having only a couple of them that are really that have more going for them than that 10th level feature. Obviously, notable ones being Divination with their Portent feature, and Evocation with their ability to sculpt spells beginning at 2nd level. So I, in my mind, they all just sort of lump together, except for these couple of standouts in the School ofs. That's not to say they're bad necessarily. I think that they really need to be revisited and reworked in a way that makes them a little bit more viable. And that's kind of part of what I was hoping was going to happen with Strixhaven. Like they were going to add a little bit to this, or they were going to amend a little bit of this, but we didn't get that. So I'm hoping that when they do this re-release, whatever in 2024, that is what we get. Part of what we get. Obviously, there are a few more things that need to be worked on, but that's part of what we get. So moving on from the School of Wizards, we come to War Magic, which is your other War Mage type of wizard. The Bladesinger, I said, was like your fighter up in the mix and everything like that. This is your back to midliner who is firing off spells, absorbing spells in weird ways. They are a really strange sort of specific subclass. You really have to have like fighting going on for this to become something that is super valuable to you. But they are all around very good, I think. It gets looked down on a little bit because Bladesinger is such a good subclass, but I think that it has more going for it than it gets credit for. But obviously that's just my opinion. I recommend obviously giving it a read, because giving it a read is something that you should do for all the classes at least, so that you know what you're getting into when you start playing something, and you don't just mark something off because you just thought it might be a good idea at some point, because you heard something on the internet. You heard it here first on the internet. Read your subclasses before you make a decision. But that brings us to the end of the Wizard class and to the end of all 13 of our core classes in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and making me a part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are phenomenal. You're the reason that this show happens. If you are able to and want to become a patron, there's a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I am really excited to be rounding out this first season here of Good Morning Adventurers. I totally forgot the name of the show for a second there. And so I will see you guys tomorrow with the last episode of this 2021 season, I guess last quarter of 2021 season. And until then, keep on rolling.